Kelvin Osoro had always believed he was meant for greatness. But greatness had never looked his way. Born into a struggling family in a small community in Benin, Nigeria, he had known hardship from the moment he could walk. His father, Mr. Osoro, was a carpenter whose hands were raw from years of labor, yet the money he made was barely enough to feed the family. His mother, Mama Kelvin, sold akara and pap every morning by the roadside, waking up before dawn to prepare her small store. Kelvin was the eldest of 3 children. His younger brother, Osas, was 12, and his little sister, Ivy, was 9. They all lived in a tiny, 2-room apartment that smelled of damp walls and kerosene. During the rainy season, they placed buckets around the house to catch water from the leaking roof. But despite their poverty, the Osaros were a family that found happiness in little things. At night, Papa told stories about his youthful days, exaggerating the details just to make them laugh. Mama always had one proverb or another to remind them that hard work and honesty were the keys to a good life. But Kelvin was no longer sure if honesty could give him the life he wanted. At school, Kelvin was reminded every day that he was poor. His school uniform was old, the blue fabric faded from years of washing. His sandals had been repaired so many times that they barely held together. The other students noticed. "See as he be like person wey dem pick from dustbin," one of them mocked one afternoon. Another boy laughed. "Kelvin, you sure say you go fit pay school fees this term?" The words cut deep. But the worst part was the girls. Kelvin had always admired a girl in his class named Blessing. She was beautiful, with dark skin that glowed in the sun and a smile that could make anyone forget their worries. But Blessing never looked his way. She only noticed the boys who had money, the ones who came to school in flashy cars, wearing expensive watches and spraying cash during lunchtime. One afternoon, Kelvin overheard Blessing and her friends talking. "I can never date a broke guy," one of them said. "Imagine suffering with a man in this life. God forbid." Blessing laughed. "No be me and poverty. Any man wey no get money, make he dey him dey." Kelvin's chest tightened. At that moment, he decided. He would never be broke again. Kelvin's chance to escape poverty came in the form of Tony. Tony was in SS2, 2 classes ahead of Kelvin. Everyone knew him. He wasn't the best student, rarely attended classes, but he was the richest among them. He wore designer clothes, always had the latest iPhone, and never seemed to lack money. Kelvin had always wondered where Tony got his wealth, until the day he saw him step out of a black Mercedes-Benz. A secondary school student. Inside the car was another boy, looking no older than 19, casually counting bundles of cash. Kelvin couldn't hold back his curiosity. "Tony, how you take do he asked, his voice filled with awe. Tony smirked. "You won't get money." Kelvin nodded quickly. Tony studied him for a moment, then smiled. "Meet me tonight. I go show you road." That night, Kelvin snuck out of his house and followed Tony to an uncompleted building at the edge of their neighborhood. There, he met 3 other young boys, Junior, Ovi, and Desmond. They were dressed in flashy clothes, their wrists decorated with gold chains. A single laptop sat on a wooden table, glowing in the darkness. "This na Yahoo," Tony said, placing a hand on Kelvin's shoulder. "You go use your brain, and before you know, you go dey count millions." Kelvin's heart pounded with excitement. He had heard stories about Yahoo Boys, young men who made money through internet fraud. They scammed foreigners, posing as rich businessmen, lovers, or investors. Some of them even went as far as doing rituals to ensure their scams worked. Kelvin wasn't thinking about rituals. He was only thinking about the money. Tony showed him the basics: how to create fake accounts, how to talk to clients, how to make them believe his lies. "You no need to suffer like your papa," Tony whispered. Just small work, and you go fit buy house for your mama. Kelvin swallowed. A house for his mother. A better school for his siblings. Enough money to make Blessing notice him. I go do Kelvin said. And with those words, he entered a world he never truly understood. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Kelvin learned fast. He spent every night practicing, studying old scam scripts, memorizing romantic phrases, perfecting his typing skills. His first few scams failed, but then one day, everything changed. A white woman from the US named Catherine Jones sent him $500. Kelvin stared at his phone screen, his hands trembling. He had never seen that amount of money before. That same day, he made another $1,000 from another client. Kelvin couldn't believe it. For the first time in his life, he was rich. Kelvin's transformation was immediate. He no longer asked his parents for money. Instead, he gave them money. Kelvin, where you see all this money? Mama, Kelvin asked one evening as he handed her a thick bundle of cash. I dey do online business, Mama, Kelvin said, smiling. His mother's eyes narrowed. Which kind online business? Kelvin had prepared for this question. I dey help people find love online. If them marry, them go pay me commission. Mama, Kelvin frowned, clearly not convinced. But the money was real. For the first time in years, they didn't have to worry about food. Osas and Ivy got new school bags. Papa could finally buy the tools he needed for his workshop. Even the villagers noticed. That Osoro pikin don hammer they whispered. Him don join Yahoo Boys. Abeg, e no concern me. Money no money. But not everyone was excited. Osas refused to take anything from Kelvin. Brother Kelvin, where you see all this money? He asked one night. Osas, why you dey ask me stupid question? Kelvin snapped. Osas shook his head. I no want wahala. I no go collect your money. Even little Ivy seemed uneasy. Mommy say make we no near your room, she whispered one afternoon. She say your money no clear. Kelvin laughed, but deep down, something about his mother's words unsettled him. She was watching him. She knew something was wrong. But by the time Kelvin realized how serious it was already too late. Kelvin Osoro had tasted wealth. And now, he was drowning in it. Ever since his first big payout, the money never stopped coming. Every morning, his phone buzzed with alerts, $500 here, $1,000 there. He moved from scamming lonely women to pretending to be a real estate agent, promising fake properties to foreigners. With Tony's guidance, Kelvin's skills sharpened. Within 3 months, he had made over 10 million naira. And with that money came a new Kelvin. Kelvin no longer walked, he swaggered. He stopped wearing his old, faded school uniform and replaced it with designer shirts and expensive sneakers. He bought a gold wristwatch and made sure to let it glint under the sun whenever he passed by his classmates. Even his voice changed. Guy, who get time for school, he would say, waving his hand dismissively whenever someone reminded him about his studies. And Blessing. She finally noticed him. One afternoon, as he leaned against a rented black Lexus, Blessing walked up to him, smiling sweetly. Kelvin, you look good she said, her fingers grazing his gold chain. Kelvin smirked. Now you just dey see She laughed, flipping her braids over her shoulder. Maybe you fit carry me go out this weekend. Kelvin felt a rush of pride. The same girl who once ignored him was now practically begging for his attention. Money had changed everything. But while the outside world admired Kelvin's transformation, his family saw something else. At first, his mother tried to convince herself that Kelvin had found a genuine online business. But as time passed, her suspicions deepened. One night, she sat outside their small house, watching Kelvin return home in a brand new iPhone, expensive sneakers, and perfume that smelled like pure luxury. He had not worked a day in his life. Yet, he was spending money like a politician. Mama Kelvin's heart tightened. She knew this kind of wealth. She had seen young boys in the village rise suddenly, buying cars, throwing money at strangers, only for their names to be whispered when bodies turned up in the river. She could not let that happen to her son. The next morning, she confronted him. "Kelvin, sit down." Kelvin sighed, barely looking up from his phone. "Mama, I get somewhere to go." "I say sit down," she snapped, her voice sharp. Startled, Kelvin dropped his phone. He had never heard his mother raise her voice like that before. She looked him in the eye. "Tell me the truth. Where is this money coming from?" Kelvin forced a smile. "Mama, I don't tell you before." "Don't lie to me," she shouted, her eyes glistening with tears. Kelvin stiffened. His father, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. "My son," he said quietly, "money wey no get clear source, e no dey last. If na Yahoo you dey do, stop now. Make e no be say you go use your own hand by problem wey big pass you." Kelvin's heart pounded. They knew. But he couldn't stop now. Instead, he laughed. "Mama, Papa, abeg, make una no reason I'm like this. This life not about who get sense. I no go suffer like una." His mother gasped. Kelvin's father's face darkened. "Kelvin, you dey mad," he whispered. "No me and your mama you dey talk to like that." Kelvin stood up, adjusting his gold chain. "If una no wan chop the money wey I dey bring, no wahala. But make una no disturb my life." And with that, he walked out. His mother burst into tears. Kelvin assumed that his younger brother and sister would be proud of him. But he was wrong. One evening, he gave Osas a brand new PlayStation 5. "I no want," Osas said coldly, pushing the box away. Kelvin frowned. "Why? No original one." "I no want AM," Osas shouted. Kelvin turned to his little sister, Ivy. "Baby girl, see the new dress wey I buy for you." Ivy shook her head. "Mommy say make we no take anything from you." Kelvin felt rage bubbling in his chest. "So, because of Mama, una no go collect anything from me?" he asked. "We no want chop money wey we no sabi where e from come," Osas replied firmly. Kelvin's hand tightened into a fist. "No, because I want help una dey talk rubbish." Osas stood his ground. "We no want your help." Kelvin stormed out. For the first time, he realized his own family had turned their backs on him. But it didn't matter. Because he was rich now. Word spread quickly in the community. "That Osoro pikin don get money oh. No be small money. The boy dey buy land SEF. Where he see am? Abeg, e no concern me. Make e dey spend am." But not everyone was impressed. At the village square, some elders shook their heads. "Money wey come too fast, e dey go too fast," one of them muttered. "Not today we go see am. If him hand no clean, make e no go bring curse come this village." Old women whispered as Kelvin passed. "If it be say no ritual e do." Even the pastor in the local church made a comment during Sunday service. "Young people of today, beware of wealth that is not from God. The devil gives money, but he takes your soul in return." Kelvin laughed when he heard it. "Them just dey jealous," he told Tony. Tony smirked. "Forget them. Enjoy your life, my guy." But something was changing. Kelvin had crossed a line. And soon, the real price of his wealth would come knocking. One night, Kelvin sat with Tony and his other Yahoo friends at a bar, celebrating another big payout. They were drunk on money, buying drinks for strangers, spraying cash in the air. Then, Tony's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it. When he returned, his face was pale. "Kelvin," he said in a low voice. "We get problem." Kelvin's heart skipped. "What happened?" Tony hesitated. Then, he whispered, "You remember the Boba way give us the charm?" Kelvin's stomach twisted. Of course, he remembered. When Kelvin first joined Tony's group, they had been taken to a native doctor in a remote village. There, Kelvin had been told one thing. Spend the money within 8 days. If you fail, you will pay with your life. Kelvin had laughed then. After all, who couldn't spend money? But now, Tony's expression was serious. "Kelvin, Boba say your time dey almost finish." Kelvin frowned. "But I don't spend most of the money any." Tony shook his head. He remained. Kelvin's body turned cold. "How many days I get left?" he asked. Tony's eyes were dark with fear. 2 days. A sharp chill ran down Kelvin's spine. 2 days. If he failed, he would die. Kelvin barely slept that night. He sat on his bed, staring at the bundles of cash stacked in front of him, feeling his heartbeat in his throat. He had 2 days left. If he failed, he would die. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "What have I done?" he whispered. For the first time in his life, he wished he was back in his tiny home, eating his mother's simple meals, listening to his father's dry jokes. He had wanted wealth to escape suffering, but now, suffering felt safer. By morning, his body was weak from stress. He had not eaten since the previous day. He barely noticed his mother peeking into his room, eyes filled with worry. "Kelvin, my son," she called softly. He ignored her. She stepped in, her voice trembling. "I don't know what you have done, but whatever it is, I beg you in the name of God, leave it. You have not been yourself. You look sick. This money, it will bring trouble." Kelvin finally turned to her, his lips pale and dry. "Mama, it's too late," he whispered. Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "Kelvin, talk to me." But he only shook his head and walked past her. He had one mission. Get rid of the money. Kelvin rushed into the streets, shoving bundles of cash into people's hands. "Take it. Take it all," he shouted. The people were confused. Some eagerly grabbed the money, others looked at him with suspicion. He threw stacks into gutters. He set some on fire. But no matter what he did, the money never reduced. It was useless. By nightfall, Kelvin was exhausted. His vision was blurry. His body felt like it no longer belonged to him. And then, it hit him. There was no way out. His legs buckled, and he collapsed onto the cold pavement. People rushed to him, but their voices sounded distant. Everything faded to black. Kelvin woke up in a hospital bed. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. "My son, what is happening to you?" she cried. "You have money, yet you look like a dead man. What have you done?" Kelvin's lips trembled. "Mama, I made a mistake." His father stood at the door, his face lined with deep worry. "Son, talk to us. Maybe we can help." Tears poured down Kelvin's face. He opened his mouth to speak, but then, the room began to shake. His mother screamed. The walls trembled. The lights flickered. A deep, inhuman voice echoed through the room. Kelvin's body convulsed violently. His eyes rolled back. His mother wailed. His father shouted for help. But it was too late. The curse had come to collect its debt. He felt himself falling, down, 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 swallowed by an endless pit. The air was thick with the scent of death. His chest burned, his breath came in ragged gasps. Then, suddenly, he wasn't alone. A shadowy figure loomed before him, its glowing red eyes piercing through the darkness. Its voice was deep, cold, and final. "You failed." Kelvin's knees buckled. He fell, scraping his palms against the rocky ground. Please give me another chance," he sobbed. The figure stepped closer. "Did you not hear the warning?" it growled. Kelvin sobbed harder. I tried to spend it all." A deep, cruel laugh echoed through the darkness. "And yet, you couldn't." Kelvin's hands trembled as he pressed them together in prayer. "Please, I don't want to die. Take the money back. I don't want it anymore." The shadow leaned in, its breath icy against Kelvin's skin. It was never about the money. Kelvin's eyes widened. It was about your greed. A cold realization hit him. He had been so desperate to prove himself, so hungry for wealth, that he had ignored all the warnings. And now, it was too late. Back in the hospital, Kelvin's body convulsed violently. The doctor and nurses rushed in, shouting orders. His mother clung to his lifeless hand, her sobs echoing through the room. His father paced back and forth, hands on his head. Kelvin's eyes snapped open. But something was wrong. His pupils were pitch black. His veins bulged, dark as ink, crawling up his neck like vines. His breathing was ragged, as if something inside him was trying to escape. Then, a blood-curdling scream tore from his throat. It was not human. His mother flinched, stumbling backward. "Jesus! My son! What is happening to you?" Kelvin's entire body lifted off the bed, his back arching unnaturally. The lights flickered. The walls trembled. The machines monitoring him began to spark and short-circuit. "No! I'm not ready till die," he screamed. His father lunged forward, trying to grab him, but a powerful force threw him across the room. The nurses screamed and ran. The doctor stood frozen in shock. Kelvin's face twisted in agony as the shadow figure materialized behind him. It placed a bony, clawed hand on his shoulder. Kelvin's body froze. His mouth fell open. His eyes widened in silent terror. A final breath escaped his lips. And then, his body collapsed. Still. Silent. Lifeless. His mother let out a heartbreaking scream. She shook him, slapped his face, called his name over and over. But Kelvin's body lay cold and motionless. The curse had collected its debt. Kelvin was dead. The hospital room was silent. Only the sound of his mother's weeping filled the space. His father sat in a corner, his head buried in his hands. The man who had spent his entire life struggling to keep his family together had just lost his first son. The news spread like wildfire across Benin. "Did you hear? That small boy, Kelvin, he died mysteriously. I heard he did money rituals and couldn't finish spending the money. They say his body started shaking, and then he screamed and collapsed." Neighbors gathered outside Kelvin's family house, whispering in hushed voices. Some felt pity. Others shook their heads in disappointment. Young boys these days don't want to walk. See where greed has led him. His mother refused to eat. For days, she sat in the same spot, staring at the wall, her eyes empty. His father stopped speaking completely. Kelvin's younger siblings didn't understand what had happened. They only knew that their big brother was gone forever. The flashy cars, the expensive chains, the luxurious houses Kelvin had bought, they all meant nothing now. In the end, he left with nothing. 1 week after Kelvin's burial, Tony sat alone in his room, staring at his phone. The news of Kelvin's death had shaken him. He had seen this happen before, boys who entered the game and couldn't handle it. Yet, it never stopped. Another boy would take Kelvin's place. Another young soul would make the same mistake. And the cycle would continue. But for those who were willing to listen, Kelvin's story was a warning. Fast money comes with a price. And sometimes, the price is your life.